Robbie, are you going?
Hey, everyone. Welcome to this emergency broadcast of Reckless Speculation. We have what seems to be a conclusion of the Harbaugh, Michigan, Big Ten, possibly Fox drama that we have been surrounding ourselves with in the last week. Um, Before we get into it, we have the usual crew, two of the three. Tom, I guess happy conclusion day.
Yeah, I mean, eh, the nonsense is over with for now, we'll say. And it was interesting because I was posting a lot on the social media from our show last night with Michelle, who, I mean, if you haven't seen it, go back and check it out.
Yes.
There was a lot of great insights, but so there was all speculative. And right after I posted, here comes this decision. So it was kind of like a moot point. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we can all move on, whether side you're, for it or against it. We can
Yeah.
move on and
We're gonna get
focus.
to that. We're gonna
Yeah.
get to that. Brandon, welcome in your somewhat Michigan colors going on
No,
over your hat.
these are Preds colors. Let's get it straight. Don't get it
Yes.
twisted. I don't want to hear any shit on the reactions to me wearing Michigan. Not at all. This is
Oh,
Preds, Nashville Preds. All right.
This is what
So,
happens when America's team takes over.
uh,
Before I get to Tom, who is a Michigan guy, Brandon, I'm going to start with you. Let's just talk. Who won this thing?
man, this feels like Fox behind the scenes kind of stepped in. I think the Big Ten realized that they made a mistake collectively, and I think this was the best outcome, for all parties involved. I think to take the spotlight off of the Big Ten and this rush to judgment. Obviously, there was some things going on there with the cheating, stealing signs, blah, blah, blah. But we've all had this discussion before. Watch our other podcast. It was, I think it's sweeping it under the rug kind of, but yet there was some punishment, and I think everyone can be happy with this and walk away. I think the Big Ten and Michigan, this was a good outcome for both, because it could have had a bad spotlight on for a long time. People could have fought this for a long time.
I started thinking around, like I was, working today, and I looked up, and it was 1 o'clock around that, and I checked Twitter, and I was like, man, nothing's been said. Like I was
it was
like,
very
it's almost
quiet.
too quiet for this kind of thing with a hearing
The,
coming
Mhm.
tomorrow.
the eve of the court
Yeah,
hearing.
and so there's travel arrangements being made for Michigan players, assistant coaches. So I thought something was going to come down. I didn't know exactly what. Tom, who do you think won?
I mean, I guess when you look at the grand scheme of things, Petiti won because he got what he requested ultimately. Um, I'm disappointed in the sense that I think whether you want to admit it or not, I think having Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines for next Saturday's game um, was important because Brandon will agree with me that he wants Michigan at their best, just like I'd want Ohio State at their best. So him not being there, you know, I guess you look at the grand scheme of things. It seemed like they were going to battle with this thing. There was a lot of talk, and yeah, I think they came in here with a big gun, and it didn't come to fruition. I think the reality is they knew that they were more than likely going to fight a losing battle in a sense with the judge. In my
Yeah,
opinion. So
I agree with that. I think I think ultimately this battle was lost last Friday, Saturday, when the judge didn't sign that emergency order.
Yeah.
Then you're like, well, where's the harm? The longer things like that go, the worse it gets for the petitioning party that's claiming an emergency. I live with a belief that people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Brandon, so you're a fan of the other premier Big Ten team. We all know college sports is dirty, and from on one level or another, like whether it's sign stealing or breaking rules or pushing the towing the line. How happy or unhappy are you with, let's say, Petiti won, if that's the premise? How happy are you that this brand new commissioner now is wielding this much power as it moves forward? Because he's essentially starting new power as a commissioner.
Yeah, he's ruffling a lot of feathers here. I don't like it. This whole move before the NCAA, and like we talked about several times, the Big Ten commissioner is supposed to be fighting for the schools in the Big Ten and protecting those schools. What other commissioner in the Power Five would impose these kind of sanctions, jumping the gun before investigations are done? Like, I think he's trying to make a big splash too soon, trying to act like I don't know, but I'm not happy with it. I don't like the direction that it's heading with him in charge right now. But there's a flip side to this. What if there are back channel conversations saying, "Hey, let's go ahead and get ahead of this." We talked about this a little bit last night. Let's go ahead and get ahead of this. Let's just give a little slap on the wrist, and the NCAA can't come in and nothing will be done. This will all go away.
Yeah,
I could see something like that, being done as well, where it's like, all right, we look bad for a week or two, and then time heals all, right? So
yeah, and that's a good point. And because we brought this up last night about, is Fox involved behind the scenes? Is the NCAA involved?
Fox is always involved.
Yeah,
there's a lot of money at hand. Fox is definitely involved.
Well, Michelle brought that up last night, that there was speculation. I thought I enjoyed how she added that word in there, speculation, since this is reckless speculation, that Fox, the NCAA, and the Big Ten were kind of, making some moves, behind the scenes. So it does make you question if Fox and the NCAA got in there and said, "Hey, you know what? If Michigan agrees to this suspension and that's it, will you back off?" And then another thing I heard today, perusing the Twitter channels, somebody posed a question, basically saying, is there an agreement here that Petiti might be stepping down after season's end, perhaps? And that was one of the agreements to Michigan kind of, agreeing to their deal. Makes you wonder because, like we said last night and on Saturday, it's going to be tough to mend that relationship, not only between Michigan and Petiti, but Michigan and the other schools in the conference. So this is all new. This is all fluid.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to find out a lot more as the weekend goes. I'm sure ESPN's mule, Pete Thamel, will be all over this. Ironically, though, he's been very silent on this. He's only been reporting on James Madison being screwed by the NCAA, but that's a whole nother topic.
I think they've got a lawsuit coming as well.
Yeah. Well, the Attorney General in Virginia is possibly filing a lawsuit, but
and so keeping on Michigan, Harbaugh now is sitting out 6 games this year.
Yep.
We talked about either of those, was it I can't remember, late last week or this week, about him possibly being spiteful and this keeping him at Michigan. Does the pendulum now swing? Like, I mean, he had to sign off on this, I assume.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where does this land on the never-ending question of does he stay or does he go to the NFL? Tom, what do you think?
To me, it begins and ends how this season ends, and that goes too with the quarterback. If Michigan wins the national championship, both Harbaugh and JJ are going to go to the NFL. But if they don't, I think what has happened has given Jim Harbaugh kind of new life, we'll say, maybe a bad taste in his mouth to really go out and get that trophy just despite the NCAA and despite Tony Petitti. So again, if they win, then he's got no reason to come back, and they already have his replacement who's going to by the season's end he'll had 4 games under his belt as coach. So if they win the national championship, he's gone. If they don't, we're going to see him back next year.
Brandon, so let's play it forward. Let's just assume Ohio State wins in a week and I guess 9 days. Just 9 days, not a week and 9 days, but in 9 days, Ohio State wins. What does the committee do with Michigan? Assuming everyone holds serve, but there's an upset in the Pac-12 championship. So we're sitting with Georgia, Ohio State, Florida State, undefeated, Michigan with 1 loss, and the Pac-12 winner with 1 loss.
That's tough. I don't see Michigan or Ohio State, whoever loses, a 1-loss non-champion getting in if it's to boot a Pac-12 1-loss champion. Like, that has merit, right? The championship. Yeah. That's what they've always said, and that's why all these, the schools, conferences started getting these championship games in place because of that, because it holds so much merit. So I would see whoever loses is out. There's only going to be one Big Ten team in this year, in my opinion. There's too many other, irons in the fire that could make it. So, the SEC is a little more interesting to me. What if Bama wins the championship and you got a 1-loss Georgia, you got a 0. Yeah, just they lost the SEC championship game. Like that one's a little more interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, who knows what the committee's going to do?
Well, and on the flip side, Ohio State's definitely out if they lose to Michigan. If you lose to Michigan without their head coach, you're done.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But that's why, like I said last night, I mean, I'm on the Ohio State fan base side that I want Harbaugh there.
It helps Ohio State if he coaches, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, we want to play them at their best, and I've said this time and time again on the show. The Big Ten is better when Michigan and Ohio State rivalry is good, and both teams are good.
College football is better.
College football is better for that, and so on and so forth. So, although it was fun kicking their ass for 10 years and whatever straight, that 10 out of 11, they're stepping up. Now they're back, and now this is a rivalry again, and it makes it more fun. I mean, I spent way too much money to go to the game last year and watch us lose at home, but it was awesome because it was like 2 versus 3, so it was great.
Yeah.
Tom, any chance Michigan gets in with a loss to Ohio State?
No, I don't think so. And I've talked about this before. Obviously the committee put 2 Big Ten teams in last year, and it didn't really bode well for the playoff, both losing in the first round. So I don't think they're going to do that again because there's so many more scenarios at play. And way it sits right now, it just sounds to me like Michigan's going to stay at 3 no matter what they do. And if Ohio State was sitting at 1 and they lost, maybe they would drop them to 4. But
am I sensing some conspiracy of this move this week to keep 2 Big Ten teams out, moving Georgia to 1?
Harbaugh and Ryan Day playing each other in the Natty. Can you imagine that? Oh my goodness! But
I will say this. For the whole 2 teams in from the same conference, the committee, and it's going to stop because it's the last year of it. But they need to get over this whole, we don't want to have a rematch 1 month later. Like, stop it. Like, who cares?
It doesn't matter.
Like get it last year, the winner of Michigan, Ohio State, and that semifinal would have been much better than Georgia versus TCU, which was a boat race. And it's stop with that. We want to avoid rematches because you may get them anyway. Like when Alabama and Georgia 2 out of 3 years paired up. I mean,
that's the thing. Like they're supposedly, picking the 4 best teams in the order or whatever. But come on, it's all politics and whatever going into it, trying to set up matches and get the most TV ratings and fan base, blah blah blah.
Well, I mean, I saw a graphic come out today, and I don't know the legitimacy of it, and it said largest fan bases in college football. Ohio State was number 1. Texas was 2. Michigan was 3. I mean, if you're going by that sense, wouldn't you want to have 2 of the top 3 fan bases representing your playoff, possibility? So, but again, I don't believe Boo on the CFP committee when he says that they're only judging what's on the field. I firmly believe
100%.
that there's somewhat of a collusion going on in that decision making for keeping Michigan where they're at. So I do believe that the suspension hurts Michigan ultimately.
So sticking with Michigan, so is this all handshake and move on between Michigan and the Big Ten? Just a week ago, we're talking about guns a-blazing. There could be a breakup. There could be chaos in college football. Is this everyone simmer down? They've had a weekend. They've had lawyers talk, and everything's good. What are you hearing in Michigan, Tom?
There hasn't been a whole lot coming out, and the gist of what I'm hearing is that maybe there was some hyperbole involved with some threats and whatnot. But I think it boils down to after the season, they have meetings. There's going to be a time where these teams that kind of encouraged Petiti to take action, they're going to have to confront Michigan at some point, and one team's got to confront them next week. So will they be able to hash out, their differences? Michigan claims they had evidence on other teams. How much do I believe? Who knows? I mean, this whole thing has been blown way out of proportion in my estimation. But I think it boils down to, okay, will changes be made? This 1994 ruling that is way outdated needs to be changed. They need to do away with the signals. So I think there's a lot of things to come into play. Ultimately, Michigan more than likely will stay in the Big Ten, and that's based upon the Big Ten kind of agreeing that, all right, we'll squash the investigation and we'll leave it up to the NCAA. And the NCAA basically has known about this for a year or two, and they haven't taken any action on it. So my guess is this thing's just going to kind of die off, and everything will remain status quo in the end.
I will say shout out to Michelle. She was right on her little post today. The big losers in all of this are the lawyers. You're talking about, not kidding you, millions of dollars in billable hours over this fight.
Yeah, but you don't think they got paid?
Well, they got paid up to today, but they were about to get seriously paid. But yeah, I mean, I think for college football, it's good that this is dying down now, and like you can start to focus a little bit more on the play. But yeah, it has been wild. I mean, Brandon, you as a Big Ten person too, is all's well that ends well? Is it just everyone move on and let's see what happens next, or is there any ships rocking that you foresee?
No, this ends here. I don't think the NCAA is going to step in. They're too cowardice, and they have no control or power in college football. The only thing I have left is March Madness. That's it. Everybody can take their ball and go somewhere else if they want to, and they know that, and they're just collecting paychecks and sitting by and hanging out, or they would have done something. This is to end the media fiasco.
Right.
All right, there's been punishment. There's been everything's justified, or judgment has been handed down, whatever you want to call it. It's done. It's over. Here's a punishment. Everyone's agreed to it. Let's move on. I mean, this is just ridiculous, in my opinion. Everyone steals signs. If you think someone's stealing signs, or everyone's trying to get an edge, just change your damn sign. Like, do something different. I mean, whatever. It's so dumb. Like,
Bill Burr was on Rich Eisen's show, and I love his what he thought about that. He goes, "You got a guy on the sideline holding up a slice of pizza, and then he's got another guy with the pie sign, and it's like, if you can decipher that, you probably shouldn't be in college football. You should be doing something else." And I absolutely agree there. I mean, you got four people wearing different colored jerseys and hats, looking foolish on the sidelines, hanging off signs, and I mean, what's what? I mean, it's just mumbo jumbo, and I think the reality is the NCAA was involved here in this decision, and they signed off on it. I think that tells me that this thing it's dead in the water for the most part.
Well, we're doing a short show before we get out of here. Brandon brought up a point that I haven't thought about quite yet till he just brought it up, or at least semi brought it up. Did Petiti actually stumble on the death knell of we've been saying that NCAA is on its death knell for years now, but did him overstepping his boundaries and usurping the power of the NCAA in this situation, and then the university agreeing to it, did in a way the conferences say, we don't need you we need you even less because we can now manage our own disciplinary tracks.
And he got like 11 other schools to sign off on it as well. So
and that's what made me even think of it, is because you look at schools that do self-imposed sanction or penalties or whatever to try and combat any other outside entity wanting to punish them or whatever. This is kind of that at a larger scale on the flip side, right? Like, so you could see that argument and that point. And now, as an outsider, not being privy to these conversations in the back channels, we can see, or we can, speculate that, all right, well, Petiti is just an asshole and blah, 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 did all this. But on the other side, what if he's, the unsung hero here that actually stepped in and did all this for the sake of the Big Ten and to keep the NCAA away from, what's going on. And what if they wanted to suspend Harbaugh for a year or something? Something.
Well, it's one of those things. Like, I'm not saying Petitti's. I mean, I'm sure he is smart. I don't know the guy. Never didn't even know his name till last week. But he's kind of like the guy that's trying to, make lemonade and develops hydrogen peroxide by accident. Like that's kind of what it seems like this could be.
I mean,
it's a good analogy.
It's hard to kind of think.
I want that on my tombstone. Try to make lemonade.
Try to make lemonade. Invented hydrogen peroxide.
Well, I mean, when it's all said and done, you look back and you see investigation, still was well underway. There was no conclusions of anything, and he deals out this punishment. So he jumped the gun for whatever reason. I think he felt confident enough that he had the backing of the majority of the schools in the conference. But I mean, ultimately, there will always be a black mark when it comes to Tony Petitti in Ann Arbor. And as a Michigan fan, I hope things go my way next week. Sorry, Brandon, which I would think you would say the same thing to me. And I want to see Tony Petitti have to hand Jim Harbaugh, the Big Ten championship trophy. Yeah. So there is the thought was, would there be a punishment beyond next week's game? And the answer is no. So at least we have that to look forward to potentially.
I think at the end of the day, what solved this problem, or at least came to an agreement of this problem, was the difference between an NCAA and you've heard this throughout the last 30, 40 years. The NCAA does not have subpoena power. So you only have to give them what you want to give them. Once the lawsuit is opened up, each side has subpoena power. And this could have gotten as dirty as each side wanted it to. They could have subpoenaed. Well, who told you this? Where'd you get the information? It could have got ugly for an entire conference.
There's
cooler heads finally prevailed and said, "Hey, no one wants."
There's a tweet that I have here, and it posed a really interesting question. Do I think Michigan had some dirt on other programs? More than likely. But here's an interesting thing. Ryan Dempsey at Ryan Dempsey 313, he says, for anyone who was wondering if University of Michigan feared a Stallion's deposition or discovery in their breach of contract case, this is their answer. So it makes you wonder if this thing would have gotten dirty, that they would have had to bring Stallion's in and under oath. Was there some things? Was there some shit in the game here that Michigan was trying to cover up? And obviously that more than likely would have come out in discovery. So I thought that tweet was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things make sense on both sides as to why they would abruptly call this thing off.
Well, yeah, because I mean, first question for Stallions would be, who all have you worked for? And because I find it very hard to believe this is one rogue school, one rogue guy, and
there could be a whole network of other schools.
Let's just say I'm shopping. I have secrets on Purdue, on what they run. Guess who all plays Purdue? Would y'all be interested
for sure.
in information?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so
this was a whole thing. I think, the selling, like we talked about last night, it was a high possibility because they do not want to open up this whole, back road channel to several different schools in the Big Ten. Bad spectacle for Big Ten, bad spectacle for Michigan and any other parties that they have dirt on or whatever. Because let's be honest. Everyone's trying to get an edge. This could have got ugly. That's why I think the silent hitter was Fox with the big
Fox.
money.
Yep.
I think they came in. They were like, all right, we got to get this over with. Little, wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Get out of here and shut it down.
Not to mention, who's been kind of the leader of this whole thing. It's been the worldwide leader, ESPN. So I think there's been a competitor. So I think there's been a huge divide of people, believing everything ESPN's saying and not really trusting what Fox College Football has to say. So I think the best interest of Fox was, hey, for the Big Ten's sake and for all of our sake, let's get this thing
shut it down.
And just knock
shut it down.
Yep.
It really makes it hard to believe that the SEC has still won, I think, 14 of the last 17 championships without doing this kind of nonsense. It just shows the different level of talent and coaching. We can just do it without having, any kind of scandals.
Well, some of the SEC teams, not Tennessee, obviously. That's not one of them. So
hey,
you can sit there on your high horse all you want, but not since '98, bro.
Hey, trivia question: only 7 teams have been ranked number 1 in the CFP rankings. Who can name them? Only 7. The entire history of the CFP rankings.
Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson,
Michigan.
4. No.
No, I don't think Michigan was. Oregon?
No.
Notre Dame was. Well, I don't think it was Notre Dame. Oh gosh.
It wasn't.
Tennessee's one of them.
Yep, Tennessee's one of them.
I knew it. That's the whole reason you asked that question. Just so you can be ranked.
Yeah.
All right, we're done with this answer. This is just complete.
Florida.
This is a
I don't
setup.
think Florida
this
State.
Is a setup.
Well, TCU wasn't. They weren't. Gosh.
I can't even.
Texas.
No.
I can't remember. I remember the 6th one. I can't remember the 7th one though.
What? How are you going to give a trivia question?
Well, I know you're not going to get. I know you're not going to get the 6th one that I can think of. Well, it was Mississippi State was the one you'll never get.
Really?
Yeah, the very first CFP. Dan Mullen had them at number 1.
About Auburn?
No. Maybe it was Florida State
or LSU.
I think it was LSU. The year they Joe Burrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tennessee, Mississippi State. That's what's important.
Mississippi State.
What happened to Tennessee that year?
They won the Orange Bowl, beat Clemson.
Ooh. Tennessee or South Carolina ran out of fireworks that day.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy. So yeah, I think this year, I've said it in previous shows, the committee has to get it right. And they've already got their hands full with they continue to march Texas up there at number 7 and Alabama at 8 when you know damn well if Alabama wins the SEC championship game, they are going to be represented in the CFP. So, and I think I was watching Crane and Company this morning, and they labeled this Saturday Separation Saturday or something like that. You have Texas going to Iowa State. That could be a big time game. You have Washington and Oregon State. So this whole top 5, top 6 could be looking very different come Sunday. So, and we've all said the same thing. It's going to play itself out by the end of the season. There won't be any questions.
It's going to be I think it actually will be fairly easy for the committee by the end
which it should be. Let play on the
Yeah.
field dictate their decisions, and I think this could be the year that they get it done, just based upon games that will be played at the end of the season, matchups that
The
we
worst case scenario for the committee is if Alabama beats Georgia, and you have a 2-time champion with 1 loss. Are you going to leave them out? That's the hardest part.
Well,
and we talk about networks having influence. Until I see it, I will not believe an SEC champion is getting left out of the playoff.
I don't think so either, but I wish there was some type of baseline or reference that is a gauge for the college football playoff. Like, how much merit, how many points do you get for winning your conference versus only being a 1-loss team? Like, where does that rank? Instead of just being like judgmental amongst the board that is being lobbied and whatever. It's just there's no clear judgment or path there. So it's like the inspectors I deal with every day. It's like there's a general law of code, but it's open to interpretation to the inspector, which is completely asinine.
Well, you guys, like, we talk about easy schedules, and we like to give the Big Ten a hard time, we being SEC people. Georgia's only played 2 away games thus far. 1 at Auburn, they won by 7, and at Vanderbilt, which is a home game.
And that game for everybody. That game was contested until probably the last 5-6 minutes of it. I think with Georgia, they haven't played like the Georgia we've seen, up until the last probably 3-4 weeks. So I think they deserve to be where they're at right now, based on, their offense has taken off. And it seemed like as soon as Brock Bowers went down, Carson Beck upped his game and did what he had to do. And now he's back with Ladd McConkey. I think that's a very dangerous offense again. So that's a conundrum. And again, I think you look at Separation Saturday. This game is huge for Georgia this week at Tennessee. They can't mess this up, because I think the committee is going to look at this game, and that's going to decide a lot when it comes down to decision making.
Oh, well, if they lose this game, then the SEC championship game is an elimination for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you have the Pac-12. Who does Florida State have left? Let me look at this. Do they have anybody left?
Louisville. It'll probably come down to Louisville in the ACC championship game.
I think Florida State's really good, but they're really good in a year that a lot of teams are really good. And I don't know if their resume does it for me.
You can't really trust them either. So
they play North Alabama this week, at 5-5 Florida, and then TBD, which is going to be Louisville. Yeah, so that's just not a great schedule.
They're marching them up at 4 for now, because I think they feel obligated. Although I really believe Washington currently has a better resume
I don't get that
than Florida State. But there's another thing.
I like Oregon above Washington personally.
So do I. So do I. But
I know Washington beat them, but
you look at the scenario that Texas and Alabama are in. Texas is where they're at because they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So I think they give them that for now, but when push comes to shove, they won't be so generous.
I agree. Did Lamar just go out for the season? Is that what I'm saying?
Mark Andrews. No, Mark Andrews just got hurt. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not watching. I don't have anything on in here. So
one of my text threads, it said that did not look good. So, and I looked over and I seen he was gimping off the field. So,
Um,
which we have to
well,
do
our
an
boys-
NFL show sometimes. So
Yeah.
we didn't get
Yeah.
our picks in.
Yeah. Well, our boys, good shortish show tonight.
Shortish.
Yeah.
We
Thanks
still
for
managed
hopping
40
on.
minutes.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm
It's
sure more
amazing.
information's going to come out. So we're going to do a show on Monday night because of the holiday situation, and we will be joined again by Michelle to give her take on the current state of college football, not just Michigan, because she's very versed in college football in general. So we'll have her back on Monday night, and we definitely look forward to that.
The Maui Invitational starts on Monday. I will be at the bar at 2:30, and so I will either be talking a lot or not talking much. We'll see.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. Either way, we'll have another fire show. So look forward to that.
But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. And then we'll be back on Monday with a brand new show. And boys, always enjoy it.
Take it easy.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Reckless Speculation. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube searching Reckless Speculation. Catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We look forward to catching you right here next week with another exciting episode of Reckless Speculation.